Today I want to talk about why AI transformation is harder than previous digital transformations and why a lot of the same mistakes that led to digital transformations failing are going to lead to AI transformations failing when you try to run it out in your business. So my name's Brennan. My background is in project delivery and financial services. I spent 12 years doing that. So when I jumped into the AI world, I immediately saw a lot of the application of AI tools like agentic coding, deep research agents, and automation as a way of helping companies do things better, faster, and cheaper. And that's all well and good. But one of the things I explored in my testing, talking to people, working with people, is a lot of the problems that happened in the previous era of transformation are going to happen in this era of AI transformation because it's a lot of the same people making the same governance decisions and thinking about technology in like a 1990s, early 2000s way. So if you take a step back, what actually is transformation? Transformation is taking how you do something today and making it better in your future state. Maybe you're rolling out a new product, maybe you're simplifying a process, maybe you're adding new product features or reducing the cost of producing a particular product or service so that your customers get better value for money and you're more competitive on pricing. Whatever the commercial driver behind the decision is, the output is you want to take your operating model, the people, the processes, the platforms, and make it better. And AI at first glance is very attractive from any sort of corporate benefit analysis you want to do on what better, faster, cheaper looks like. If you could take customer service, where you have 100 people, replace 90 people with really well trained and fine-tuned customer support agents that deal with a lot of queries instead of you having to manage a call center or something like that. That's extremely attractive for any leader. This is why I think there's one of the mistakes of the last wave of transformation getting repeated, and that's that leaders want to lock in the benefit and realize the benefit, the cost saving, the efficiency, the revenue gain, well before the business is actually ready to deliver it and experience it. What that means is you can't actually cut all the people in that customer support team till you've done the testing, bedded it in, realized the benefits, actually proven that the AI tool can support your customers at the level of quality and service that they expect. And that's where I think this whole repeating the mistakes of big transformation programs of the past is going to be happening a lot in the AI transformation era. People are forgetting that just because it's a new technology doesn't mean you can cut corners on the change management, on the training, on the governance, on the project controls, on the testing controls. All of these things, they combine together to give you the right outcome. One of the issues with any new shiny thing that's being hyped is all of that lived experience and professional experience doesn't get written down to zero value. It's actually really valuable to have seen, like I have in my corporate career, what works well, what doesn't work well, where the fish hooks are, where things go wrong, what the good questions are to ask if you're looking at a software vendor who's trying to tell you and sell you about an AI tool that will solve all your problems. The AI transformation requires a lot more thinking and business decision making than people really want to talk about. And that's because if you have a software system that you're putting in, all of the little points of configuration need a reason why you chose a particular setting. Maybe it's to support the specific type of product you have. Maybe it's a regulatory requirement. Maybe it's a specific thing that one customer wanted, so you decided to configure it for all customers. In the traditional world, there's a lot of work that goes around the documentation and investigation of all of these requirements. And one thing I find quite interesting coming from working in a highly regulated industry is a lot of folks don't really value the upfront planning and thinking. But what I've observed in my own testing and use of agentic coding tools, and what I know from talking to clients, former employers, all this sort of thing, about how you get the most out of AI tools, the planning and the design up front helps guide the AI agents when they're helping you build something. So if you don't ask the right questions and check and challenge in that planning phase, a lot of the historical project program mistakes of scope creep, cost overrun, testing failures, vendor integration failures, trying to do things that an API endpoint can't support, all of these little things, they will be quickly exposed when you've told the board that you're shipping this massive AI program and the cost savings will be locked in by the end of Q4, that's a few weeks away. And one thing I find really shocking, but it shouldn't shock me because I did work in corporate for 12 years, is a lot of people involved in making and interrogating the top level decisions about AI transformation investments often haven't put in a lot of time to test these tools out. That's partly because they trust their people. So one risk which I'm quite concerned about, and I'd be advising clients to be really careful about, is when you're picking people to run AI transformation programs, projects, put people in large seats that are going to be making decisions that will impact how you roll out AI throughout your operating model. You want people who are curious and have been hacking away at side projects. You want people who pay for AI tools with their own money because they want to test it out on their personal devices and know intuitively what's the best model for deep research, what's the best model for image generation, video generation, what's best with specific languages of coding. So you don't want people who don't know and use the technology constantly involved in those decision-making processes where they're going to be making in-flight judgment calls unless they really have been trying this stuff out and working with it to try and ship things and put them in production environments. If they're doing it at home on their side projects, that's fine because a lot of corporate environments are pretty locked down and restrictive for good reasons around cybersecurity and protection of data and all of this lovely stuff. But that's one of the challenges, I think, in this era. There are a lot of consultants out there trying to sell AI automations, and they'll look at something like N8N. You can go to Claude now and ask Claude, chat with it over an hour telling you what the process is, what tools you use, what the pain points are, and it will basically build you an N8N automation. It can integrate in, you can test it, you can monitor it, you can manage it. Obviously this is only really going to work for smaller businesses at this stage, but over time, a lot of these middle layers of tools, people who are close to the business problem and want to solve the business problem, are going to be able to self-serve in a way which I think that previous generation of digital transformation never really achieved because the technical bar was still too high. A good example would be self-service data and analytics. That never really came to fruition unless people self-taught themselves how to use Power BI, how to use Tableau, how to use whatever. A lot of people just aren't going to do that. And one of the cool things about AI is that specific industry knowledge and experience is valuable in assessing the quality of the response from an AI tool and assessing the quality of work of an AI agent. And that back and forth iterative process happens at much faster speed than working with a traditional transformation or development team. It doesn't have to be a multi-month process. It could be a multi-hour process in some cases. And this pace of iteration sort of bleeds into this other trend, which I'll talk about briefly before closing this video off, and that's that AI transformation is a bit different than digital transformation was in the 2000s because it speeds up both the ability of a business to improve its operating model, but also the ability of a business's competitors and AI-first thinking startups in their niche to very quickly get to a point where they are a massive competitive threat because they've engineered an operating model where cost to serve is so much more efficient than yours that you get forced into really poor decision-making zones. For example, if you have a competitor who's rebuilt their operating model with AI, and let's say that they can operate it profitably at a price point that's half of what yours is, you're going to end up in a price war and you're going to lose. This is where I think a lot of these AI job losses are going to come from. It's not going to be a leader wanting to do an AI transformation, rolling it out successfully, realizing the benefits because they've improved their people efficiency, improved their processes, improved their platforms with the help of AI. It's going to come from collapse of companies because the demand for their product and service goes to zero because their competitors have leveraged AI to its fullest extent and are able to deliver a much lower competitive price point where you get better, faster, cheaper, and you don't need to engage with businesses where you might have had multi-year vendor contracts. This other problem is customer or user driven. Over time, a lot of products and services, as AI models get better, will be able to replicate what you sell if they know how to prompt well and ask the right question of the AI tool. So for example, a lot of regulated services might find themselves in a position where instead of going to pay a human specialist, people just upload all of the context, the scans, the medical history, the blood work, voice notes detailing the entire family's medical history or whatever, and then asking AI what it thinks for a second opinion instead of spending hundreds or thousands of dollars or going through the process of health insurance claims. Now, that is quite a different way of thinking, but all of this combines to what I sort of said at the start. AI transformation is different from digital transformation, and there are a lot of risks through this process. But talking to people who have been using the tools is more important because in the old era, people didn't really have a SAP or Salesforce thing at home. Like here, a lot of the people who are identifying how to add value to businesses through rolling out AI transformation are spending a lot of time on the tools and they know. So when you're talking to them, you should be asking things like, what model do you prefer for coding? What model do you prefer for just quick searches of the internet? How have you seen model capability evolve in your use of AI over the last year? They should be up to speed on all of these developments. I think a lot of consultants need to be really careful because the ability to fact check and all this sort of stuff is a lot easier than it's ever been before. Now, one thing I'm trying to help clients with is identify the blockers in their AI transformation and come up with plans to overcome those blockers and then get to a point where you can actually start realizing benefits from AI transformation in your business. So if you're interested in something like that, you can book a call with me using the Calendly link in the description below. I also write a Substack newsletter that goes out every week, and that's a growing community over there. I'm getting some nice engagement, so you can subscribe to that. If you're interested in hearing more of these sorts of freewheeling conversations about AI transformation and what it might mean, you can subscribe, follow along. I'm on TikTok as well, but I look forward to hearing from you in the comments below if you've got any other thoughts on AI transformation. I'm trying to lightly edit these because I think there's a deluge of really tightly edited AI transformation content out there, and I'm just trying to share what I've been doing in my own time, working with select clients, working on my own side projects, and mapping that back to my own corporate experience. And if that's something you're interested in, again, like and subscribe, drop a comment below, and I'm really interested in hearing from you. Thanks again for all the support, and I'll see you in the next video.